Hey everyone and welcome to the first part of the important pointers for the Consul Associate certification. So let's get started. Now the first important pointer is associated with the development mode. So the dev server mode in Consul is useful for local development, testing and exploration. Also note that the dev server mode is not really secure and also it is a in-memory mode. So you should not use it for production. Along with that, you should also remember the exact command for starting the dev mode, which is consul agent-dev. So many times in exams, they'll give you a fill in the blanks. So they'll give you consul agent and there'll be a fill in the blank where you'll have to specify -dev if the question states what is the exact command to run the consul in development mode. So this is the reason why it is important for you to know the exact command here. Second important pointer is associated with the Consul server mode. So running the Consul in a server mode allows customers to have a lot of flexibility related to the option sets that can be used. So there are certain important flags that you should know. One is the server flag. Then you have the bootstrap expect flag, which is primarily used while doing a cluster. Then you have the -node flag. Then you have a -bind and -data-dir flag. This is important. You should know what exactly these are. And also the config-dir flag. This is also important to know. Now it can happen that within the exams, they'll give you a direct configuration file like consul.hcl and they'll ask you certain questions based on that. So let's look into some example questions. So based on this configuration file, where will the agent store its local state information? So you should know that in order for that to happen, you have to specify the data-dir flag. So this is the data-dir flag here. Second is which address will be used for internal cluster communication. This is directly associated with the bind ADDR. So this is what it is. Which data center will the agent be associated with? So this is the data center flag here. How many servers will be part of the cluster? So you have a bootstrap expect of 1. And is this agent joining as a server or a client? This is important. So here you see you have a server of true. So then this is joining as a server. So I hope you understood on what type of questions can you expect based on the Consul server mode here. The next important area is related to the connection approaches to Consul. Do note that there are multiple approaches in which we can connect to Consul. So you have GUI, you have API, you even have the CLI way. Now one more important question is related to a binding to an IP address. So let's assume that you are starting a Consul agent on a server that has multiple interfaces. So in that case, you will directly receive an error stating that multiple private IPv4 address has been found. Please configure one with a bind. So this is something that we have already seen in our practicals. So this is the reason why it is important that you supply the bind ADDR flag. So you can specify the bind ADDR in two ways. First is you can directly add the IP address, like you can directly add the IP address of the server, or if you're running it via the CLI, you can also specify the get interface IP ETH0. It will automatically take the IP address associated with the ETH0 interface. The next important topic is related to service discovery. So Consul enables service to discover each other by storing various information like IP address as well as port in a single registry. So you should know on how you can go ahead and create services in both via the CLI as well as the GUI. You should also remember the command to create the services. So the command is consul services register followed by the file where your service definition is stored. This is very important. So for example, let's say in exams you see a question which states that what is the CLI command to register a service, and this second part of services is fill in the blank. So consul register web-json and you have to fill this specific flag here. So many times it can lead to confusion whether it is a service or it is a services. This is important. So do note, for creating a service, it is services. Alright, this is one important part to remember here. So small things can prove to be very important during the exams here. The next important topic is related to the ID and the name parameter within the service definition. So do note that service name parameter is not always equal to the ID parameter. So for example, you have a service here which has a name of web and you have given the ID of web1. So this is specifically important. The ID role plays specifically while there is a name conflict. So if there is a name conflict, then ID parameter will be useful to uniquely identify. So here this can be better understood. So you have a service of web here, and you can see that there are two instances. You have web 1 and you have web 2. So this web 1 and web 2 are nothing but the ID associated with the service that has a name of web. So this also is important. So in exams, they can give you a definition something similar to this, and they'll ask you what is the name of this service. So it can lead to confusion whether it is a web 1 or a web. So this is important part to remember. The next important pointer is associated with the health checks. So Consul health checks allows us to track the health of a deployed service. So you should basically know on how to create the service definition associated with the health check, and you should also know on the various parameters related to health checks here. Discussing about the health checks, do note that there are various type of health checks that are available. So you have a script plus interval, you have a HTTP plus interval, you also have TCP plus interval and others. Now discussing about a script check. So this arguments here, you're giving a curl followed by 127001. So this is a classic example of script check. So within the script check, you are generally free to do anything to determine the status of the check. However, here one important part to remember is the exit status. So depending upon the exit status, the script check can be marked as passing or even failed. Now also note that you can also define multiple health check if a requirement arises. This is one important part to remember. So in exams, if they say, can you define multiple health checks? The answer is yes. Now also one last important point for today's video is associated with the service level lookups. So DNS interface can be used for performing a service level lookups. So in exams you can get a output something similar to this, and they'll ask you a specific question based on this output, like what is the port number where this specific service is running. So you can identify the port number is 8300 and so on. So you should be able to not only know on how to perform the lookup via the DNS, but also interpret the output that you get here. That's great. So that's about it for the first part of the important pointers for the Consul Associate certification exams.